supportive of these kind of people, or at the very least uncomfortable in being too judgmental of them. Footage was recently revealed of him speaking at a radical Sikh separatist rally in San Francisco in 2015, and there was this infamous interview on the CBC where he sounded like a bit of a truther talking about the 1985 attacks.
Singh has condemned the Air India bombing, the worst mass murder in Canadian history, but he's refused to condemn Talvinder Parmar, the acknowledged mastermind of the attack.
I don't know who was responsible, but I think we need to find out who's truly responsible.
So anyway, this did a lot of damage to Singh's political brand and made him come off as this kind of bizarre, fringy kind of guy. His poll numbers are way down, and Trudeau is probably resting easy about any threats from the left. And what about threats from the right? Well, the Conservative Party candidate is still Andrew Scheer, a man 40% of Canadians apparently don't even know. Scheer has had an incredibly low profile, and it seems a lot of that is just due to his very mild-mannered personality.
Justin Trudeau is letting Canadians down. He promised families he would help them when he was running for Prime Minister, but he's failed to deliver any real relief.
Even though right-wingers in Canada hate Justin Trudeau with the fiery passion of 1,000 suns, Scheer can only seem to muster the heat of one of those 7-Eleven hot dog lamps. History teaches that it is very rare for a Canadian Prime Minister to lose a bid for re-election, particularly after only one term. Canadians can be a pretty passive people, and it seems we have a real tendency to give another shot to whoever's currently in power, even if that guy isn't particularly beloved. My sense is that for an incumbent Prime Minister to lose, he would either have to A, have really strong, really compelling opponents, or B, be really unpopular. For the time being, Justin Trudeau's opponents don't seem like much of a threat, which leaves his approval rating. Let's see where his numbers are in a few months. The other big thing happening in Canadian politics right now is the big Ontario election set for next month. I already talked about this election a little bit in a previous video, but let me just bring everyone up to speed with what has happened since. After much scandal and delay, the Conservatives finally settled on their candidate, who wound up being Doug Ford, the brother of the infamous Toronto Mayor Rob Ford, who is quite infamous, I would say, in his own right as well. The Ford brothers were sort of Trump before Trump, and everyone makes this comparison all the time. Particularly Ford's opponent in the election, incumbent Liberal Premier Kathleen Wynne. Wynne is extremely unpopular, and barring some sort of 11th hour miracle, she will almost certainly lose to Ford. So she is leaning really hard into the Trump analogies, hoping that reflected disgust at the US president will be enough to weaken Ford and hobble her across the finish line. But the problem is that even though Ford is obviously a lot like Trump in terms of how he looks and how he talks, and the fact that, I want to put this as delicately as possible, a lot of people think he is too stupid to do the job. He doesn't really have any policy ideas that Wynne can point to and be like, aha, that's racist or that's sexist. Premier Wynne did this big Twitter rant recently going on about how much Ford was like Trump, then adding, but I'm not Hillary Clinton. But she actually is a lot like Hillary Clinton in the sense that most voters just really dislike and distrust her on some deep fundamental level. They see her as a symbol of the crooked political establishment that has turned Ontario into Canada's most basket case province, crippled by enormous debt and constant scandal. Ford might have enormous problems of his own, but if the election simply becomes a referendum on draining the swamp, it's hard to see how he loses. So anyway, that's what's going on in Canadian politics right now. Questions, comments, leave them in the thing below. And let me know if you would like to see more of this kind of video in the future. It really wouldn't be that hard. Canadian politics is truly a well with no bottom.
Make America great again.